What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So as you can see, I got my 2024 bus back, my S2C Gretsch GM40. And well, the reason why it was out of service and in the workshop yesterday is because it needed an oil change. As you can see, it just had new oil put in today, this morning. So this engine is running clean. Now, this is still broken. Still waiting on a cable from Gretsch. And the clips back here are still broken. I did put flex tape over them as a temporary fix until we get the new clips. How well that's working, I'm not too sure. I didn't do the best job putting the flex tape over, mainly because there wasn't enough room. Maybe I could have sliced the pieces of flex tape into smaller pieces so that they could fit. I might do that next time I need to do flex tape in a bus. But aside from this stuff, the bus has been very reliable. It's got almost 40,000 miles for 2024. It's because people love to drive it, including myself. This recently was on an out-of-state road trip. That's why it got stolen from me. Just kidding. From last week. So it's been 8 days since I've been in this bus or driven it. And I gotta say, I am very happy with it. I'm glad I'm no longer in a 2020, because our 2020s are notorious for breaking down all the time, because two of them at least are buses from hell. One of them kept pissing itself out of coolant, and thankfully that's been fixed now, and then the other one is actually reliable. And then we have the GM45, which is also a 2020. That thing's all kinds of messed up with the fast idle, because it won't cancel when you hit the service brake. And the braking system's messed up too. But aside from that, that bus was involved in a 1050. And if you don't know what a 1050 is, it's radio code for an accident. Drunk driver rear-ended that bus 3 times. And I saw that bus on the side of the road on, I believe, I-90 into Chicago. Saw that bus and I was like, oh crap, that's one of our buses. But luckily, fire department was already on the scene dealing with the accident. And there was some damage to the bumper. But at least the driver was okay and it wasn't his fault. So things happen, and at least it didn't happen to a brand new bus like this one. Because as far as the 2020s go, for Freightliner's purposes, they are not reliable at all. And I'm not basing them just off of our fleet of 5 2020s that we have, but also when I was at First Student, the 2020s there were garbage as well. I mean, I had one 2 school years ago when I was a school bus driver, and it was down more than it was up. Like one time when it was placed back in service after 3 weeks of being down for non-functional driver HVAC, it broke again in 6 days. And I even said, we'll see how long this lasts, and it didn't last long at all. And then I had after treatment problems when it got really cold. It threw a mill light. It was very stinky. And I didn't want to drive that thing anymore, but I basically had no choice but to drive it. It was a very miserable experience, and I do not want to be reminded of it. So yeah, if you're looking into buying a 2020 Freightliner of any kind, don't. You'll save yourself a lot of headache. They are unreliable, and for whatever reason, 2020 is the lemon year for Freightliners. Apart from one in our fleet, the one with the highest mileage for a 2020, 151,000 miles, I believe now. It's actually doing really well. The only issue that it's had is def leak, but that was fixed. And def leaks can happen in any bus. It happened in another 2020, and it even happened in the first bus I drove with this company, which is 2017 GM40 with nearly 200,000 miles on it. I recently did a forced regen in that bus because I drove it last week, but yeah, that thing is getting dirty. Alright, sorry for the brief interruption there. I've got the bus running now to get the interior cooled off for the passengers. One of them just came back and then left. I would never film with passengers on the bus. But yeah, what I meant by that bus, the 2017, was getting dirty is, well, that one LT1, I had a discussion with him after doing a forced regen on that bus, and he thinks that the EGR may be plugged up or dirty and the valve might be sticking open. And that might be true, because when I was looking at the DPF differential pressure, it was double the normal amount when it's at temperature doing the forced regeneration. And the soot load, well, I did multiple forced regenerations on that bus just to check the soot load, and that bus has its soot load go up very fast, at least compared to our 2020s or even this bus, which run very clean. That one is running dirty now. I'm actually surprised the DPF light has not been on in that bus, because there was a bus from a different company, and I made a video about this, where the driver's DPF light was flashing, and I saw that from a mile away. And so I offered to jump in and start a forced regeneration for him so he wouldn't break down, say for instance on the busway at McCormick Place, because we were doing shuttle runs and there were a bunch of different buses from a bunch of different companies there for the shuttle runs, and I didn't want anyone breaking down, so I'm glad I was there to look out for people and do that forced regen so he could stay on the road. And it worked because he didn't break down and I saw him doing the shuttles. Alright, so it's now later in the evening. I just filled up at the truck stop. We got a full tank of everything, full tank of diesel, full tank of def, and I'm ready to go back to base. So, as I was saying, when I was doing the regen on the 2017, I noticed the DPF differential pressure was double the normal amount when it's at temperature. That one LT1 suggested it might be EGR related. It was getting up to temperature just fine, so that means the DOC and DPF were working just fine. Same with the 7th injector that injects fuel into the exhaust stream to get it hot during the active regeneration, or in this case a forced regeneration. But yeah, something's happening where it's accumulating soot a lot faster than it should be when the bus is being operated normally. Because at one point I saw that the soot load was 36 grams. At least I think that's how it's measured in the hand cell scan tool that I use for the forced regens. But yeah, that bus, believe it or not, had a mill light come on mid-forced regen, and I did a full hour and 15-minute regen on it to make sure it's nice and clean. Mill light came on during the middle of it, and it's for the same reason it's always been on, which is malfunctioning NOx sensor somewhere in the bus. But the workshop knows about it, and it will be tended to eventually. That might be what's throwing off the readings. So yeah, it could be as simple as a NOx sensor, or it could be something as serious as maybe face plugging of the DOC and or DPF filter. So that's pretty much all. I'll give you one final startup of this bus, because you're not going to see it until next week. Have a nice day, everybody.